Welcome to the Art Colony, a podcast about art and art history in Provincetown. My name is Gaston Lacombe. Provincetown has everything. The centuries-long history, the beautiful setting, the quirky characters, the tension between the old and the new, the hidden gems, all of it. Don't you think it would be the ideal setting for a series of mystery novels? Well, I think our guest today had the same thought because that is exactly what she did. So are you ready for a bit of suspense today? We are talking to Jeannette de Beauvoir. Thank you so
Merci.
much for coming to the Art Colony
Oh,
podcast.
it's a pleasure to be here, Gaston. Thanks for inviting me.
And how does it feel to have your name pronounced correctly?
It is wonderful. An unusual situation for sure.
Yes. I don't know about you, but having a French name, I've just learned to just say it the way it is. And when Americans pronounce it, if they say Gaston or Gaston or whatever, I just let them go.
Just let them go.
Yeah, because it's Gaston. So tell us, who is Jeannette de Beauvoir?
Oh la la, what a question. I think mostly I think of myself as a storyteller. As I say in my Facebook page, I say I'm a storyteller. I try to be a thinker. I'm really just trying to figure things out. And I think that people who are artistic figure things out through their art. My former husband said that every book I write could be subtitled Jeannette Goes to Therapy because it's a way of working things out and figuring them out. You do it through characters, you do it through places, but you also do it for yourself.
So you're an author.
I am an author.
Yeah. And
that's a long-winded way of getting there.
And we haven't had many authors yet on the podcast, so it's very nice to
feel
explore.
Very special.
Exactly. So where do we find your origins?
I grew up mostly in a city in France called Angers. It's in the Loire Valley, which is where most of the old castles are, and there's some wines. Southwest of Paris. And my mother was American, and eventually she and my father moved to the States, back to the States for her. And when I was done with college and was at sort of loose ends, she said, "Why don't you come visit us for a summer?" So I came to visit for a summer, and here I still am.
And that was on the Cape?
No, that was actually in Boston. But
okay.
I came to the Cape. I came to the Cape first because I was looking for lonely places to write. And in the winter, it felt like a really good, lonely place to write. And then eventually moved here full time. So everyone else came here for the summer and then moved in full time. I came for the winters, and my first summer here, which was, I think, about 21 years ago, I walked down Commercial Street and thought, oh my gosh, have I made the biggest mistake of my life?
It is a completely different world.
It is.
Summer or winter in Provincetown is a whole different world.
It's like living in two different places all at once. It's great.
Yeah, and some people can handle both, and some, prefer leaving.
There have been moments.
When did you start writing?
Oh my gosh, I wrote my first novel when I was 8 years old. It was terrible, but it was a first novel. I've never felt like I was really good at anything else, and it's the only thing that, when I say I'm a writer, I really mean that I'm not just a writer when I'm writing or when I'm researching or when I'm promoting. It's really the essence of who I am. And I'm always writing in the back of my head, no matter where I am. And I didn't come to mysteries right away. I had started out writing historical fiction because most of my academic work has been in history. And you kind of have to justify those letters after your name that were so expensive to get. So I wrote historical fiction, loved it, and had a friend who said, "I've got this great idea for a mystery." And I said, "Well, I don't write mysteries. They're too convoluted. There's too much plotting. And she said, "Well, no, I'll give you the idea and you write it." And so we started this project, my first and definitely last collaboration. And I was thinking as she was giving me the material, I was thinking, I could do that better. So we got through that book. It did get published. But it taught me that I can do mysteries. And it's interesting because it's really what I like reading. So it was a delight to sort of allow myself to get into a genre that I liked as much as writing, as much as reading.
Well, I'm glad to see another history major in studio.
We have so much in common.
It's funny, there's been quite a few people with history degrees. I have a BA and MA and an unfinished PhD in history. So that first book, what was it about?
Oh, so that was a book that's interesting because I kind of reused some of the research that I'd done for that. That was a book about a mystery in Nepal that, which is ironic because my most recent book now is a mystery in Nepal, but they're very different. And it involved a lot of looking at the contrast between the Sherpa who live there and the tourists who come in to climb the mountain, which is not unlike the situation we have here in Provincetown. So there's a sort of nice symmetry there, I think. But I had published a couple of books with St. Martin's Minotaur about a series that took place in Montreal, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. And I was sitting at a book fair next to this gentleman. We were chatting, and I said to him, "Oh, I'm thinking about writing a mystery series that takes place here in Provincetown." And he said, "Oh, I've been thinking about starting a publishing house here in Provincetown." So serendipity.
Hmm.
That was Buck Mahoney, and he did form Homeport Press, and has published all of my Sidney Riley Provincetown mysteries.
Yes. So Sidney Riley is your sleuth
She is.
in all of these Provincetown mysteries. And there's 11 of them?
The 11th is coming out this spring.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite a lot. So you've been working on this series for a long time.
Yeah, it sort of started for me even before I spoke to him. The reason I was thinking of it was because there had been the first election of the gentleman who's now in office. I don't like saying his name. I was feeling like, oh my gosh, what do we do about this rift, which has since then only gotten worse, obviously. And I thought, one of the things that happens is that people get othered because they don't understand. They have fear of other people. So I'm looking at Provincetown where we've got this constant changing of different kinds of people coming with different interests and different values and different lifestyles. And yeah, if you go and speak to a housewife in Iowa and say, there's this thing called a bear, for instance, she would freak out. But if you give her a novel that takes place with a protagonist or characters who are these different people, then she's going to think, oh, it's not so much, oh, it's a gay man, it's a bear. She's going to be thinking, oh, it's Glenn, because she's met Glenn and she gets to like Glenn. And hopefully all of them are going to end up doing that. The other advantage, though, honestly, is that um, there's almost a syndrome of the Murder, She Wrote. I don't know if you remember that series, but
I do.
the small village in Maine, all these murders keep taking place. And after a while, you realize that, everyone in this town is either a victim or a killer. There's no way around that. Provincetown is small, but it gets away with it because, all summer we've got festivals, we've got theme weeks, we've got different people washing in and out of town, bringing all sorts of different ideas and values and, of course, drama um, to the town. So it's a great way to be able to have something that's actually reasonably. I mean, you have to suspend disbelief a little bit in any of the mystery novels that aren't police procedurals, because generally real people don't solve mysteries. But there's a little less of suspension of disbelief when you really do see all sorts of different people kind of coming here, and there's some friction and there's some drama and there are all these things that really make for great stories.
What was the first book in that series?
Death of a Bear. That's
Death of
why
a
I brought
Bear.
it up. Death of a
Yeah.
Bear. And I was actually at another book fair not too long after that came out. You sit at the table and you've got your books there and you talk to people. And this woman came along and she looked at the cover, which just has a man with a beard on it. But she looked at it and she says, "Oh, I can't read this. I can't read about animals getting hurt." Okay, not quite that kind of bear.
Well, I get that in my gallery all the time because I'm in Whalers Wharf. So
Right.
I'm right in the center of town and I get, tens of thousands of visitors in the summer. And a lot of them have never been to Provincetown. They're here because they saw a cape and they said, let's drive to the end of it. Let's see what's there. And they have no idea. And they get here, let's say, during Bear Week, or they see Bear Week banners, Bear Week posters. And they ask me in my gallery, what is the relationship with this town and bears? I didn't know you had bears here. It's not a stretch. People ask me
Right.
that every summer.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm glad they come and they ask you, because again, that's not othering anymore. It's, "Oh, I met this nice guy in this gallery, and he told me all about this," and that's what they'll remember rather than, "Oh, they're different from us."
Well, I'll have to tell them from now on, go to the bookstore. There's a great
There's
book
a great book about it.
about killing a bear.
I am
So
so bloodthirsty.
so you have Death of a Bear.
Mm,
There was, something at Fantasia Fair.
Murder at Fantasia Fair,
Murder
I
at
think.
Fantasia Fair. Something at Carnival.
Right, A Killer Carnival. There's The Deadliest Blessing, which is for,
Blessing of the
The
Fleet.
Blessing of the Fleet
Yeah.
Portuguese Festival. I've got Women's Week in there. I'm not sure it's in the title. I mean, I tried to really cover
Well,
almost
there's one
all of
about
them.
the film festival too.
Yes, there's a film festival.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just so funny. Not funny, but it makes me smile to read all these titles because they are all very clearly linked to the rhythm of this town,
Right.
the calendar of this town is what I mean to say.
Yeah,
But you recommended I read Dead in the Water.
Head in the Water, which
I
actually
read it
is
cover to cover.
did you?
Yes, I did.
And
I just ate through it. It was such an easy, fun, well, not necessarily easy. It was just captivating. I just couldn't put it down. I wanted to know what was going to happen. It was a great book. I
Oh,
enjoyed
thank
it.
you, thank you. I
So
like that one
So
myself.
tell us, what was Dead in the Water all about?
So Dead in the Water actually was me realizing that I was starting to run out of theme weeks. So I thought, all right, what else can I bring into this? And so I thought, well, the whale watch is a big part of summer here on the Cape. Um, so I had a fictional owner of I do put real people in the books.
You
You
do,
probably noticed
yeah.
that. But I also fictionalized some. So it's a sort of a mix. This is a fictionalized owner who got kidnapped.
The owner of the Dolphin Fleet
The
of
Dolphin
whale
Fleet.
watching
Yes.
boats.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. He got kidnapped, and because of some past um, business between him and the owner of the inn where my protagonist Sydney works, she got involved in it. And one of the reasons I like that is that it allowed me to go a little bit deeper into her character. I don't usually reveal a lot of her past, just bits and pieces. I don't do a whole backstory thing. But because her sister had also been kidnapped, this kidnapping brought up so much for her that she hadn't dealt with. And so not just Jeanette goes to therapy, but also this book could be Sydney goes to
Mhm.
therapy.
And you say you mentioned real people. It really made me giggle. As I was reading through something about, and then I called Rob at the Arts Dune tours. I was like, Rob is a real person. Or I waved at Jeff at East End Bookstore. I was like, Jeff is a real person.
Right.
There was
Well,
so many of them. And you were talking, for example, about we're trying to decide, are we going to go have dinner at Cyro and Sal's or Mr. Lino's? I was like, these are real restaurants. Well, Mr. Lino's is gone now, very sadly.
gone. Yes.
But it's funny because you, as a resident of Provincetown, or even if somebody comes here on a regular basis, you can physically see in your head, every step these people take, everywhere they go. You can picture it in your head, and it's so
Right.
much fun.
Right. Visitors find that too. They'll say the first. Actually, there's one family I know that they come here every summer. The first thing they do is go and buy whatever my newest book is because they usually come out in the spring. My books, and and they're always so I want to go to the same restaurants that Sydney went to, or it's really charming. I think it's one of the reasons I situate all of my books in a real place. Um, Partly because I'm lazy and don't wanna make things up because it just gets too complicated, but partly also because I love this place. I love this town, and, I really want to share what it really is with people rather than just, "Here's a town that's named after such and such."
Welcome back. Just a reminder to follow us on Instagram at The Art Colony Podcast. And also, if you'd like to help us out, you can leave us a little tip at buymeacoffee.com/The Art Colony Podcast, or just go to buymeacoffee.com and do a search for The Art Colony Podcast. And thank you all for your support. So, Sidney Riley.
Yeah.
How much is she Jeannette de Beauvoir?
I think she's a lot of me. I think she's smarter than I am, and I think she's a lot more sarcastic than I am, although I'm getting there too. um, but I think it's interesting when you're building a character, and especially building a character who you're going to be living with for a while through a series. Um, you think about what is it that is is going to bring value and allow this character to grow and to change and to come into herself, sort of. And the only way that we've ever experienced that is through our own experiences. So I do put a lot of myself in her. But I also think that I mean, I'm much lazier. I'd rather sit in a room and write.
No, she's
She
a
would rather go
busybody.
out. Yeah. Yeah. She really, shall we say, keeps her finger on the pulse of the town. I don't think in a bad way. I think in a way that she's kind of grown into it. She came to Provincetown by accident. She got this gig as a wedding coordinator at the Race Point Inn, which actually does not exist. Once on Facebook, it was really funny. On Facebook, I see someone saying in community space, "Oh, where's a good place to stay? We're coming up this weekend or whatever." And someone said, tongue in cheek, obviously, Race Point Inn, and immediately, like 4 people were saying, "Where's that? I haven't seen that one." But I did feel like since I'm gonna have, like, a dead body floating in the pool and another dead body coming out of a window, I probably shouldn't make it one of the real inns. Um, so yeah, so I did create that, but I also created her in a way that, first of all, I wanna like my protagonist. I it's difficult to write a villain, um, although I think it's important to write a villain as well as you write the nice people because I G.K. Chesterton, who was a fantastic writer, and he wrote a series with a priest called Father Brown. You may have seen it on PBS, you may have read some of the books. And he did something that had never been done in detective fiction before. He had someone who said, I can understand why people would kill. I can understand that, pushed to an extreme in a situation, any of us would be capable of that. And no one had done that before. It was all about, oh, these terrible, dastardly villains who wanted to be evil all over the place. And I've tried to keep that Father Brown ethos in me as I create people because none of us is entirely good or entirely bad. We're all a mixture of that. And I think that part of not othering again is to accept that good people can do really bad things. And that indeed, if pushed to the limit, many of us could do really bad things. So I've tried to incorporate that also in Sydney. I mean, I've got just a few faults, shall we say, and I wanted to give her those too, so that, she can be a well-rounded person, but also a person who's allowing herself room to grow. She admits when she doesn't know something. She admits when she can't figure something out. She asks for help. And those are things that I'm growing into also as a person.
Mhm.
So there's a parallel.
Those stories, how much of that is based on personal experiences?
I've never solved a murder, so
Okay.
um, I'm
Well,
I'm totally newbie at
there's
that.
always tomorrow.
Who knows what tomorrow may
Yeah.
hold? The other thing that I do bring into the books, and I think it makes it interesting both for people who live here, but especially perhaps for people who don't and are going to come visit, is I try to bring up part of Provincetown's either history or situations, events. For instance, in one of the books, I talk about the fact that many people here don't know that Provincetown was a stop on the Underground Railroad, um, with fishermen taking escaped slaves out to sea to rendezvous with the Halifax fleet, who brought them to Nova Scotia in safety. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't make that the center of the book, but I wove it into it so that anytime you pick up any of these books, you're going to learn something about Provincetown you didn't know, which I really enjoy doing because there's the history again.
Mhm.
You can do a little research. But from personal experience, yeah, I mean, I one of them, I don't remember which one, honestly. It might have even been Dead in the Water. Back 10 years ago when we could go out to the old Air Force Base in North Truro.
It is that
It
one.
is that one.
Yeah.
I confuse them easily. Back then, could go through the doors, look through the windows, see all of it. And so that was a personal experience. I obviously did not have a murderer chasing me through said buildings. Um, I was a little bit more leisurely, but that was a real experience. And the other, I think, most real experience that I hope I translate into there is this sense of wherever you are, as you walk down a street, you are seeing different things than other people are seeing. So I can walk down Commercial Street and I might notice the people I know. I might notice the windows of the places I have interest in, but I'm passing by groups of people who are having conversations about something I know absolutely nothing about, and their layer of Provincetown is very different from my layer of
You
Provincetown.
talk about that in Dead in the Water as well, and you weave in the history of the different groups that came in here at different times, and you talk about the different layers of Provincetown. You know, the original Yankees, and then the Portuguese, and then the hippies, and then the gays, and all these different layers, and how they don't necessarily all mix.
Right.
And you don't necessarily all experience or see the same things in this town, even though we're all in the same environment.
And there's a major error there in that it basically did start with the people in the Mayflower, and I've made up for that in the book that's coming out this spring, which is centering around the Wampanoag. And Sydney's saying, I think of us as Mayflower. That's where history in Provincetown began in my mind. And she's getting challenged that history in Provincetown went way deeper
Mhm.
and older than that.
Now, for um, murders and stuff, is any of that based on real real happenings in Provincetown? Now, I remember I've been here for 10 years. Before the pandemic, there were two situations where there were murders or attempted murders in town, but it's not something you necessarily hear of a lot in Provincetown. But is any of that based on fact?
No,
No. Okay. Because
short
we'd
to
have a
the
lot
point.
of dead people in this town.
We would have a lot of dead people in this town. I think people would stop visiting, murder capital of Cape Cod. No,
Yeah.
um, no, I make those up, and I do a lot of weird research. I'm convinced that at some point early in my career on the internet, somebody started flagging some of my searches. She's looking to see how you blow up a float. She's looking to see how long a poison takes. And so I'm sure at some point someone looked over that person's shoulder and said, "Oh, she's just one of the crime writers, let alone." So the FBI wasn't watching me. But yeah, I do a lot of research into that because it's not something that comes naturally to me, thank goodness.
So the next story you said that's coming out, is it coming out this spring?
It is.
What's that one gonna be about?
It's called Trafficking and Murder. And Sydney, in the most recent book, not the one you read, but the most recent book, she finally married her boyfriend. Everyone loves her boyfriend,
Ali.
Ali.
Yeah.
She finally married him. So, and he works in, it sounds weird. He works in human trafficking. He combats human
Yeah.
trafficking, obviously. And, um, and so I wanted to bring him a little bit more in. I mean, he's always been sort of this peripheral figure. And especially since I hear from readers that they really like him, I don't you gotta respond to your readers. So I've brought him in more and more the trafficking, but also I've put it in the context of the Wampanoag because murdered and disappeared Indigenous women are a huge, huge statistic that no one really pays attention to. They're very, very vulnerable. And in fact, some Wampanoag women have disappeared and have been murdered. So I wanted to not sort of make I know that sounds really like a downer, and I try to make them a little bit more cheerful than that. But, she does I think Sydney does, through this process, figure out that she also, like everyone else, is guilty of not looking that extra moment, that extra space, that we let things sort of wash over us. And not just in the history itself that, knowing that we who live here now, the people who preceded us, were responsible for wiping out almost an entire population. But and that's writ big, but also writ small, in that we don't think about things that only affect other people, and we ought to. And I'm trying to get Sydney to go there. I don't preach. I try very hard. My first draft of any book I'm preaching, I'm like, this is the way the world should be. So I back off from that, but I have her work on it. As I said at the beginning, that's sort of a way to puzzle it out. And I have her work on how, even people like us who consider ourselves progressive and open-minded and liberal, we have these blind spots, and it's kind of good to be brought up against one of them and say, "Oh, yeah, maybe I need to look at that more."
Did you work with the Wampanoag people?
I spoke with many of them, and I've had the manuscript looked at to make sure that I didn't screw up terribly.
Do you
And
think there's a lot more Sidney Riley books in the work?
I had planned to stop after 10, and essentially, I did take a year off and wrote a the first book in a new series, in last year, and realized that both by popular demand, but also by my heart, I'm like, I'm not done with her yet. I was just getting her to a place where she was feeling more like growing into the person she wanted to be. And you don't stop there. You say, what happens next? So I'm thinking, I'm probably running out again of festivals and theme weeks, but I'm finding that there are other contexts in which I can still have her be this part of Provincetown as Provincetown changes and as she changes. So I'm not going to put numbers on it, but yeah, there are going to be a few more to come at least.
You said you have other series as well. Can you tell us a bit more about the other series you've
Sure,
developed?
sure. So obviously, Sidney Riley is my longest running one. I just started a new one last year with a book called The Everest Enigma. And this is a new protagonist. She lives still a woman. I find it very difficult I write almost entirely in the first person. And having never been a man, I'm not quite sure I could write in the first person as a man. So I write female protagonists. But Abby Bradford, has inherited money. That's one of the things you have to think about, when you're creating characters, especially for a mystery series, because not everybody has the time to run out and solve mysteries.
Hmm.
If you're in an office 9 to 5, you're not going to be able to, check out the scene of the crime or anything like that. Um, so that's why I gave Sydney this job of wedding coordinator because, in that role, you get to know everybody in town because you're dealing with them for weddings um, and so Abby is instead of giving her, a job that's interesting, I gave her a lot of inherited money and several, history degrees that she doesn't quite know what to do with. And this is going to be not situated in any one place. I really wanted to do some traveling, and this is a great reason to go traveling. So her first book is in Nepal, and the one I will probably have out next year is in England. So that's that series. Then I have Martine Leduc, who is my Montreal protagonist, and she is the director of public relations for the city of Montreal. So um, she gets to sort of be part of everything. And I like that series. It's unfortunate it did not continue. It didn't sell well enough, but it is dual timeline. And I really like writing dual timeline books. So that was fun. And then I have some standalone, mostly historical fiction.
Yeah, one of them I noticed was called Our Lady of the
Our
Dunes.
Lady of the Dunes. I have it
It's
here.
it, oh, is this the one you brought to read from?
It
Oh, well,
is.
great.
It is. Nice
uh,
introduction.
yeah. Can you tell us about that book?
Sure. So in 2006, I was granted a fellowship to the Dune Shacks, one of the ones from the consortium. So it went out to I went out to Margot Gelb, and at that time, it was before there were cell phones. So the Dune Shacks were much more disconnected than they feel now. So I'm sent out there for 2 weeks with my little portable typewriter that I got off eBay because there's no electricity and and I knew I had to come back with something, that's why you get a fellowship. And all I could think of was, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. No, to write. So I went for a walk. I was walking on the beach. The first night I was there, dusk, sort of that hazy time of day. And out of the water come these two seals, which was lovely. Of course, seals are great. But in the context, it felt just a little creepy just at first seeing them coming up and it being dark and me being alone and worried. And I thought, what if they hadn't been seals? What if they were people? How scary would that be? And that gave me the idea for this book about a young woman. It's essentially a coming of age novel. She lives in Boston. It's World War II. Her parents think she's unsafe. She has a German housekeeper, and that's not going over well in town. And so they sent her to one of the Dune Shacks, which fictionally belonged in the family. And so she spends the summer of I think it's 1942, 43. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I looked at it.
1942.
42. Thank
Yes.
you. He knows it all.
Yeah.
You know it all. So she spends that summer out in the dunes and learns how to be independent. As learns to love, learns to grieve. All sorts of things happen to her out there.
So you brought an
I did.
excerpt from this book.
So, and unfortunately, yes, it was titled Our Lady of the Dunes long before I knew about The Lady of the
The Lady of
Dunes.
the
And,
Dunes. Yeah.
if I could change the title, I would. But all right, so this is chapter 3, the beginning of chapter 3, and she's just coming out to the, explore the dunes, which is not like anything she's ever seen before. She's a Boston girl. There are no landmarks at the beach. The sand stretches on, uninterrupted, the waves lapping at it on one side, the high dune cliffs rising above it on the other. This sand is the dividing line between two worlds, the active, living world of the ocean and the less apparent but equally alive world of the dunes. It is here that I have come to live, in a ramshackle cottage a stone's throw away from the dune cliff, surrounded by sand and with the ever-changing vista of the sea spread out before me. I go to bed and wake up to the sound of the waves lapping on the shore. And I haven't yet missed the sound of traffic that filtered up to my bedroom in our brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue. Louis's former home is a one-room affair built, as far as I can see, of mostly debris, pieces of wood bleached and smoothed by the salt water, timbers so massive they could have only come from one of the numerous shipwrecks off the Cape, plywood patches here and there. It's ugly as sin. I love it. It's mostly windows anyway, Louis' shack, two big windows facing the water, where a door leads out to the equally ramshackle porch where Anna and I spend some of our time and take all of our meals. Smaller windows in back facing the sand and the mosses and the odd crippled trees that are all that grow in this windswept place. There's neither electricity nor running water chez Louis, and I can appreciate my mother's disdain for the place as I make my furtive sorties to the privy at night. I call out to the dune frogs when I go and move my flashlight energetically. They all come out at night, and I'm afraid to step on one in my bare feet. It would feel awful, and the frog would no doubt appreciate the experience even less. We sleep in bunk beds, Anna on the bottom, me on the top. And every morning after the sun sets the ocean alight in flames of orange and red, I take our buckets and hike down a hill of sand to the pump, then bring the water. Who knew that water is so heavy? Back up to the shack for Anna to use, heating it on the wood stove, then pouring it through the filter for our morning coffee. I've been here 5 days now, and already it feels that life in Boston is a memory, a lifetime away. My parents, the brownstones, school, as if that life had been unreal, an illusion, and all that matters now is here, this, the immediacy of this moment. The moment has included very few people, though even the eccentrics of the dunes have curiosity, and more than once I've felt eyes on me, only to turn and see movement, a blur of color, nothing more. I saw a man walking on the beach one morning, his pants legs rolled up to his knees and his feet in the surf. I hear a woman singing sometimes when the wind is just right. Her voice is beautiful as the sea, as plaintive as the cry of the gulls. At night, before Anna puts out the lamp, I pose my ritual request. Anna? Ja? Tell me something good. Something good, Liebchen, is that we are safe in the sands. I like the way she phrased that. The sands, the dunes, they are our world now, our protectors. Safety may be illusory, but it feels like if it's anywhere, it's here.
That's beautiful. And it's so interesting to listen to your description of life in the dunes, and um it's it's real. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very much the experience of being in the dunes. It's not made up. It's really real. Although I don't remember frogs.
Oh, yeah. They come out at night and they leave all these little tracks in the sand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I stayed in a Dune Shack, and it was October. Was it too late
Mm,
for frogs?
possibly. And I may be wrong about it being frogs. It could be toads. I'm not.
Oh well, one of those amphibians.
Yeah. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The little pathway was just full of them. And yes, just like her at night, I was, oh, do I really have to go out to the bathroom because I won't step on one of them?
It's so interesting how on this podcast we've talked about the dunes already about more than a dozen times. It's something that comes up so much in the artist's perception of this place, of Provincetown.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? It's not surprising though, because really it's the light and where we are out here that attracts artists, right? And that's a big part of it.
Hmm. And my last paintings are all about the dunes again. Yeah.
Again,
Yeah. Well,
there's a
great.
theme here.
I can't wait to read that book as well. After reading the book you assigned to me, I can't wait to pick up more. And that one seems to have a really fantastic story.
A little violence, but it's war.
It's war. So, along with being an author, I also saw that you've organized Making Light. It's a monthly meeting group. Can you tell me more about it?
Sure. So what happened was last year about this time, I was feeling like I couldn't write because of the election, because of the beginning of the administration, because of feeling in some ways like the world is coming to an end, possibly. What's the point? What's the point in keeping writing? And I just was frozen and really sort of everything felt like it was closing in on me. And then I thought, hey, wait, I live in Provincetown. There are a few artists here. They may be feeling the same way. Maybe we should talk about it. So I organized what I thought was one evening. I invited in a whole bunch of people who were performers and visual artists and musicians and writers. And I said, let's just talk about how we can help support each other's practices through whatever is lying ahead of us. And I called it Making Light from the quote in dark times, artists make light. And the goal was to just sort of have this conversation, know we could support each other, know we were sort of all in it together. And at the end, 4 or 5 people were saying, so when are we doing this again? I hadn't planned on us doing this again, but so the Commons very kindly offered us the space, and we've been meeting monthly ever since. It's just a conversation. Sometimes we have 8 people there. We've had 33 people there, and you can always drop by. And we talk about our practices really, and about how we can continue them, and how we can support each other in our practices. It's a conversation, and it's obviously been meaningful to a lot of people, which has surprised the hell out of me. But good.
And how is it structured? Do you have like a panel in front discussing, or is it more like a circle discussion?
It's actually a little of both, if you can imagine
Okay.
that. So what I do is I always invite 3 or 4 people as a panel, but they're there. We are there, myself included. We're there more to sort of stimulate the discussion, maybe start a discussion, maybe bring up a topic. So we, introduce ourselves and we say what we do and why we're there, and then everybody else does the same thing, so that you can go around the room. And it takes, well, to be honest, this past one, it took the whole hour, the first hour, just to go around the room because everyone was finding each other's um, conversation so interesting. At the end, I've got people who are exchanging phone numbers and they're making plans to be together, which is really great. So yes, everyone participates. You're not forced to, but everyone who has come has wanted to, and it does become a larger conversation. I just like having the panel there because it's a nice way to get started. It's usually people who are pretty articulate and able to ask good questions of the group. So it's extraordinarily informal. It's at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, on a Tuesday, and I'll tell you, people can. I do have a site for it, and it includes a whole lot of resources, articles, books, music, all sorts of things to sort of give us strength and hope and encouragement. Unfortunately, it's on my website, so you have to spell my name. JeannetteDeBeauvoir.com/making-light. And you can find out who the panelists are on our upcoming panels. You can find all these great resources. And yeah, it's kind of grown despite me. I've been sort of thinking every month, well, probably no one will come this time, and, and a million people come. So um, yeah, it's answering a need in the community, obviously, and
Hmm.
I'm really pleased to be able to do that because you know I don't have a lot of organizational skills in terms of, um, being part of Indivisible or all these other groups that are doing amazing work. I'm most comfortable sitting in a room and writing and being alone. And I've always felt a lot of guilt around that because it's not particularly helping the cause. And I feel like this is one small thing I can do for my community to be able to get out there on a Tuesday night and, it was bitterly cold this last time and people still came and allow the community to sort of support itself in a way. And it's technically it was supposed to be for people who active creators, but it's turned out that we can all learn something from a visual artist. We can all learn something from a musician because some of what they do um, laps into our own lives in so many different ways. So really, it's for everyone.
And it's very much part of what Provincetown is all about. Again, I always refer to what people tell me in my gallery in the summer. I have these visitors that come in the summer and they say, "Oh, it must be so lonely and isolating in the winter." I go, "No, it's an extremely dynamic community. The people that are here tend to be highly educated, highly social, and they moved here because they want to be here, not because they're stuck here. And because of that, it's a very dynamic community and there's all sorts of events happening. And if you want to be a hermit, you can. But if you want to be involved, be active, there's so much going on."
Every day,
Yeah.
every day.
So are your meetings on a topic every time, or is it mostly based on what the panel will be discussing?
Yeah, we don't. It's really not that formal. It's more, saying to people, here, this was my need, and I'm getting it fulfilled here just by listening to you, just by hearing, what you do on a daily basis to get through. For some people, it's as simple as I don't read the news in the morning. I do my painting first, and then later I'll read the news. Um, that's a very practical small technique. But then there are people who say, I'm trying to bring out the joy that is missing. And so that's why I wrote this particular song. Um, and that we can be creators of emotions as well as of things. So yeah, it's the first one after the first one. The first one, obviously, I was just sort of saying, "What's your North Star? What is it that's keeping you going through this really dark time?" And since then, it's sort of become whatever people want it to be. Um, I try to choose panelists who are practicing different kinds of art. Also, choosing panelists who are different sorts of people I know for different parts of my life. Someone that I know from being at WMR, someone I know from volunteering at the Independence House, just all sorts of different kinds of people so that we have something that's lively and we're all not just, preaching to the choir, although I think in Provincetown we usually are.
Yeah. So I wrote down the upcoming dates. This episode will be airing on February 16th. And so there's a meeting on February 17th.
What a
I know.
coincidence.
And there's one on March 17th, April 21st, May 19th, and June 23rd. It goes all the way into June. And that's at the Commons Provincetown, which is on Bradford Street. And
At
you said
6
at
p.m.
6 p.m. So I hope you get a lot of people coming from
Oh,
the
please do
podcast.
come.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Now, before we go, we're going to do a speed round.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question with two choices, and you have to choose one. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Agatha Christie or Dan Brown?
I get Christy.
Why?
She writes better.
She writes better.
Sorry. Sorry, Dan. I know you sell.
Physical book or electronic book?
Physical book. I love the smell.
You like the smell of it? I have learned to really appreciate electronic books.
All right, I will tell you,
Yeah.
that's a hard one to say because my preference is physical, and I like being surrounded, and God knows my cottage is full of books. But I also love the fact that you can walk down the street and you can be carrying 1,000 books in your
Mhm.
pocket. That's magical.
Well, the thing I love about them is as I read, if there's a word that I stumble upon, I can tap on it and I get the definition right away. And also, if there's images, because of course, I read a lot about art and art history, I can zoom in. You can just, pinch and zoom in and have like a view of the details of the photo. Sometimes they describe things that you can't necessarily see that well. You can zoom in. I look at paper books now and I try to zoom in and it doesn't work.
It's not
Yeah.
working.
Writing with a pen or typing?
I'd like to be the sort of person who says write with a pen, but no, I'm a keyboard girl.
Yeah, it's more efficient.
My thoughts go too fast, I've got to capture them, and I can't do that if I'm writing with a pen.
Yeah, so you must have very good, what's the word?
Well, one does it over years and years and years. I
Yeah.
never took a typing course, but
Oh, you never did?
no, no.
My mother forced me.
Oh, la la.
At some point in high school, she said, "You're gonna have to take a typing course." She sent me to community college to make sure I had a typing course. And yeah,
It served you well, though.
it did, yeah.
You got through academic degrees, so
Although, funnily enough, I'm old enough that all of my bachelor's degree was handwritten essays. I only started doing word processing when I was in my master's degree. Summer stories or winter stories?
winter stories.
Yeah, why?
I love the quietness of it. I think that winter stories tend to be more contemplative and thoughtful. Summer stories tend to be more adventurous, and I guess on the thoughtful, adventurous dichotomy, I would come down on the thoughtful one.
How many of the Sidney Riley books are winter based?
Not many.
Not many,
Not
yeah.
many. We're going to have to move into the winter. There's A Fatal Folly takes place during Holly Folly. So
Oh,
that's,
true, yeah.
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 And I think then we kind of skip a few months. So I'll have to think about something we can do in February.
So Sidney Riley is a year-round resident.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And what does she do in the winter when there's no weddings to organize?
Well, she actually recently has inherited ownership or part ownership of the inn, of the
Oh, good
Race
for
Point
her.
Inn. So she's got a lot on her plate.
I have to keep up with this story.
I know.
Okay, last question. And that's based on the book I read. Whale watching or dune tour?
Oh, so hard. I think I have to go with whale watching.
Mm-hmm.
The sight of a whale never not leaves me breathless.
I know,
I'm trying to
they're-
get that double negative there.
Yeah.
I'm always breathless is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
they're so impressive, even though you think, yeah, whatever, I've seen a whale before. They're
Mhm.
just so big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so dependent on what we're doing to the planet, which is frightening, but it just, if everyone could see a whale once a day, would our lives be really different? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
But a dune tour is also
But
fantastic.
a Dune tour, sorry, Rob, Dune tours are still wonderful.
They're really fantastic. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm so happy you contacted me and you suggested coming over. I mean, I need
Well,
more authors to talk
I,
to. Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about speaking as an author. Actually, I was really speaking about making light, but I'm glad you had me for both.
Well, it's all connected.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So if people want to know more about Jeannette de Beauvoir, where should they go?
Well, I'm on Facebook a lot. I'm on Instagram. I'm at my website. I'm on Amazon. I'm on Goodreads.
Oh, yeah. And where can they buy your books?
You can buy my books at Provincetown Bookshop, at East End Books. They don't have all of them, but they can certainly order whichever ones you would like. I do like if you go through an independent bookseller, and we have them here in Provincetown, so let's make sure we patronize them. But you can also go to Amazon, and certainly, I will be honest, I sell more ebooks than I sell paper books, and obviously that's through Kindle. So go buy my books.
Yeah, please do. Go buy her books and join the group at Making Light
And
also
Making Light tomorrow
all the way
night.
through June.
June.
So thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Gaston. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure. And thank you all for joining us.